So the interesting narrative aspects, that you had mentioned, is reflects itself a lot more when it comes to sorcery and magic, which we'll touch on in just a bit. But the individual aspects of combat, it's explained very well and in detail within the playtest, within the playtest papers themselves. But the other thing that is an important aspect of Glen Cook's world is not just individual combat, but the aspect of mass combat. You are part of a large mercenary group, and with that comes, the aspect of mass combat. Fighting on the battlefields, and you guys touch on this also. And while it's not, generally speaking, a high abstraction like it is within things such as Pendragon, it is a bit, but it takes a little. There's a little twist to it here, where the system moves from dice to card resolution, for dealing with aspects of mass combat to a degree. Again, was this a choice going into it, or did this evolve? And I kind of have a general opinion on as to why cards are being used, but I'll see if it matches what you have to say.
Um, yeah, I mean, kind of
Okay.
both. The So we played with with battle, pardon me, battle rules on a few different
Hmm. Hmm.
levels. So um, the the level that we're wanting to explore in the main
Hmm.
playtest. The first playtest is not going to touch on
Right.
this. It'll be sort of round two. Um, but you've got the main combat rules are about individuals, right? So it's at the scale of usually maybe a dozen
A,
people
a
involved, a little
skirmish. Yeah.
skirmish, right? Um, so you take that up a step, and you're going to have engagements where there's an entire platoon, which is on the company scale by modern standards, but there's maybe a few hundred people
Hmm.
involved, right? And your squad is one part of that. Okay, so if you want to, so that's the scale that the sort of one level up
Hmm.
mass combat rules are meant to represent is and then at larger than a scale larger than that, the individual, it's like an individual unit is a battalion. It's the company
Right.
itself, right? It's other regiments, and that is a lot more war gamey than role playing gamey.
Right.
Okay, um, so the yeah, I mean the core of the big battle rules is that you're wanting to resolve um, a broader swath of events and
Hmm.
actions than a few seconds at a time, right? And so a part of that is um, each I think it's each round. It's gone through a few different iterations, but I think each combat turn, yeah, you just draw a card, right? And it has there's a little table of possible
Right.
events, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, but it's there to give, number one, to give the GM some help in uh, imagining what might be happening
Hmm.
here, and to give the players the sense that this is a big
Yeah.
event, and there's likely to be shit happening that you don't have any control over,
Right.
right? And that may you know that you have to then deal with. Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the reason for making it cards is instead of roll a d100 or something like that, um, is not was not all that well thought out. It basically just kind of felt right, to me, um, and it felt, there's card playing is a big part of the fiction
Okay.
of the
Right.
soldiers that the soldiers get up to. So when I was putting all this together, that came in really early on, that table of possible um, bad
Yeah.
results, sometimes good results, and
I'm looking somewhere. Go
anyway, yeah. So it just sort of evolved like that. It just sort of felt like a fun
yeah.
additional thing to say to the players. Okay, somebody draw a card and slap it down and see what happens.
You well, thank you. You did kind of cement my romanticized opinion of like, well, being a soldier not only involves just horrendous terror, trauma, and just battle, but there's also a lot of downtime, and that involves passing that time. Not maybe not so much in the modern military, but rolling dice, but also passing the time playing cards. And so whether you were going to admit that or not, that's what I was sticking with.
Yeah.
You do provide a working version of Tonk within the game, which is fun. I love those within certain. You may see it more in IPs when there's like a game referenced on it, role playing games. But it's always one of those things where I'll be with my players. Okay, who wants to take a sidebar and play the game within the game? And you'll get a couple people go like, no,
Right.
indulge your
Right.
GM or shit's gonna happen. You're playing the goddamn fucking card game, all right? But I want my world to
Yeah. If
breathe.
you want to play full, I mean, if you want to play, the players are killing
Uh-huh.
time and want to just play out a game of
Hmm.
Tonk, just to have fun or whatever, or if the GM says, "Hey, I'm gonna be an hour late,"
Right.
right? Whatever. I mean, it's there as a fun option to throw
Well,
in.
it's one of the more
Yeah,
I mean, interesting stories revolve around that game within the books themselves, one way or another.
sure.
So
Yeah,
it's nice to know that it's
yeah,
not just, a, roll a d20 and see who wins. There's some life to it.
yeah. I mean, you can certainly do it and play it
Yeah.
that way. I mean, that's easy.
Right.
Make it a
Yeah.
gambling roll, and whoever rolls best,
Ah,
wins the
no,
pot.
there's
Sure.
no. You're playing cards, damn it.
Right.
But yeah. So to kind of wrap up the mass combat. So yeah, you've got these events that are determined by these random cards, and depending on the size of the battle, there's certain victory conditions. Depending on the victory conditions that are met, then comes the dice come back in briefly to determine actual losses. So you're writing this battle that in terms of the fiction will eventually be written into the annals of the company,
Sure.
which is another interesting aspect, with in regards to things such as the annals, the historical aspect of the company themselves. Um, you know, uh, Soldiers fight and die, but the company lives on, and this is um, another aspect of reducing stress is taking time to read the annals, if I'm not mistaken, to reinforce the company identity. Um,
At least
mhm,
show up for, the GM wants to describe
yeah,
Croker standing up and
yeah,
telling a story. Right.
right. Um, is there um, is now this kind of goes outside the rules because I don't think I asked Dennis that, but yeah, assuming that this is going to be a wild success and popular, and you guys do have the aspects of the license to carry on with it for some time. The annals themselves are going to end up playing a part in coming books, the history and the structure of the Black Company. or is something like that going to be left towards, if you want to know more, read the novels? We're going to be focusing on, aspects of you building the world that you're witnessing within, whereas, as opposed to, applying what a lot of IPs do is, here's a game, here's something, and now here's a whole bunch of compendiums with the history of the world that you're working within.
Yeah, not so much
Mhm.
that, because because Cook doesn't write that way.
Okay.
He doesn't describe his
Hmm.
world with that level of depth and detail.
Right.
He's not interested in that so much as the characters and what happens between them. So there's going to be, there's room for both. I mean, the first book, the first game that book that we're
Hmm.
doing is about the company's service to the empire.
Right.
It's basically, it matches the first
Hmm.
novel, right? It's about the company's initial service to the empire under the lady and the 10 who were taken, um, before the Battle of Charm, when all of that changed. And so you can either follow the events of that first novel, and everything takes place over the course of a single year. Or if you want to expand that out, you have the freedom to expand that out, and say, well, the version that we read, it all was compressed into the course of a single year,
Right.
but we found this other version that hadn't been expurgated and revised by somebody at the tower, and there was all these other things that happened, and it took 5 years for them to get to the Battle of Charm, and we just never heard about all these other things. Let's play that. That stuff's going to be entirely up to
Right.
you. And that's how I've been playing it.
Yeah.
Right? I played this entire year long campaign that I decided happened in the west, in the ill defined western part of the empire. That's largely kind of a lot of ruins and
Right.
things, that places that never really quite recovered from centuries of war. Uh,
Yeah. And I think that.
and
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. But basically, I did that because the Taken, I think, are awesome, and I want to play with them more than
Yeah.
just that one book that Cook gave us.
Right. I mean, you know, Dennis did some very fine renditions. You want them to last more than a couple sessions into the game. Well, that's done. So yeah, speaking of the taking, so let's take a moment to focus on the spellcasting aspect now, which may not
Mhm.
be a predominant aspect because a lot of people are going to play just these soldiers, but you are going to have hopefully a spellcaster within your company, and spellcasting. Now, I really wanted to grab the spellcaster at the table. I forget the gentleman's name, but the guy who did end up taking it did a fantastic job.
Mhm.
And I wish I had paid a little bit more. Well, I did pay attention, but I kind of wish that I was a fly on his shoulder reading it. Sorcery within the game is something that unfortunately I didn't have any experience with, but it's definitely a different approach to traditional fantasy magic, well within the definitions on how things should work within the game, but also leaving a lot of room for interpretation. I remember him, you know, coming up with these particular spells and how they function and whatnot that still worked with the foundation of what you presented, but still was
Mhm.
surprising in its presentation on how, not only how it was cast, but the outcomes of that. So the casting a spell involves obviously knowledge, learning this, the definition of what these spells are presented. Time plays a huge role in there, but also really big is whereas words and gestures in a fantasy RPG are kind of like just secondary. Words and gestures play a big part within the aspect of the Black Company. So again, since I haven't worked with it myself yet, not with within the playtest, if you wouldn't mind giving a bit more descriptive detail on magic and how the casting the spells play out within the system.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a couple of dozen, I guess, spells
Hmm.
described in the playtest
Right.
rules, right? And those will get play tested. Again, that's not going to be sort of round one of
Sure.
playtesting, which is going to be way more foundational,
Right.
right? But in round two or round three, whatever, we're going to bring sorcery into it.
Hmm.
There's a couple of dozen spells that are described, and these are spells that any wizard can cast, no matter how powerful or feeble. So, meaning they're open for all player characters who are feeble.
Right.
Um, and so there's a core sort of baseline description of um, if you spend only one action casting this spell, uh, this is what it requires, and this is what it
Hmm.
does. And then you can build on that by adding what we call augmentations to the spell. Okay. And so an augmentation might be it does more damage, or it has a greater range, or it has a greater duration. Um, it affects more people, something like that, right? So you gain augmentations by taking more time to cast the spell, or using weird physical
Right.
ingredients, or getting help from another wizard, or putting so much will and effort into it that it becomes risky for you. You might burn yourself out. You might even take damage if you do it bad enough. Um, which means in practice, every a spellcaster can pretty reliably pull together two or three augmentations above the
Right.
baseline of a spell, and then it's kind of up to you to decide where you want to spend those boosting the
Right.
spell. Okay, but it's always a matter of what do you have time to do, and what risks are you wanting to
Hmm.
take to make it happen, right? In practice, usually the players don't have more than 10 minutes, that they can sit around waiting for the wizard to put a spell together.
Right.
Maybe a couple of hours, but beyond that, it's in the leagues of you spend a whole day
Yeah.
doing nothing but preparing this spell, and everybody else is twiddling their thumbs. Um, that's not as likely to happen, right? So there's practical limits to how much you can boost a spell, how many augmentations
Hmm.
you can put on it. Another practical thing is and this is something we're gonna have to make way more explicit than it is presently, which is telling players, if you're playing a wizard, one of your jobs is to build out your versions of each of these spells ahead of time,
Right.
so that when the time comes, if you want to cast a more powerful version of it, you don't make everybody else take a 15-minute break while you do math. You know, we've all seen that shit happen in
Oh yeah.
games. We've all played with the player who loves to play the wizard, but they don't pay attention, and then their turn comes and they have to sift through 50 different possible spells they can cast.
Or or
So
or even better, the one that well, I cast lightning bolt in a 10 by 10 room. Or those
yeah,
wonderful
yeah, yeah,
wizards
yeah.
who are just in the moment when their name is called. But yeah.
Yeah, so we want it. We're gonna make sure the I mean, we say up front, and in the magic
Mhm.
rules, right? If you're not playing a wizard, you don't have to read the rest of this
Yeah.
book, right? You're good to go. Play the game. If you are playing a wizard, you've got some responsibilities to fulfill. Number one, you got to learn all this shit, and number two, you've got to put a little bit of homework into into you'll want to put together two or three different variants of the spells you expect to cast a
Yeah.
lot, right? So that when the time comes, you can easily say, um, this is my super Humpty Dumpty version of Blast. I've got it described right here.
Yeah, yeah, no, and the other aspect too that don't know if you're going to mention or not, but augmentation's a big part of it. But also there's the aspect of you can blend the spells. You learn two different
Yeah,
ones, and you can whatever it's like a Lego set. You've got these pieces, build what you want, and well, I want to do animal charm and affliction. Well, what do you want to do with it? And then you know, oh, you mean it's up to me? It's like, yeah, tell me what it is and we'll see if it works. And I think that really opens up what a lot of people love about a non-linear magic system where magic missile, as an example, just does the same thing, just harder, or more damage.
yeah.
Um,
Which you can play it like
you
that. I mean,
could.
the thing you described, like with blending spells, it's there as an option,
Hmm.
right? You've got a player who loves getting really creative with that stuff. They're going to thrive on that kind of thing, and this is there for them. If they don't, then don't bother with it. You're good.
Yeah. So within the aspect of magic, of course, not everyone's holding a Vorpal sword in Black Company, but there's still magic items, which essentially are a retention of a particular spell or condition that a magic user has cast upon it. And so there's that aspects available open to players. I
Mhm.
believe the one that you threw in our game felt like it was we had found a set landmine we haven't stepped on. Still don't know what that damn thing did, but the wizard had this economy where he could sense, and sense is another part of it, sensing magic, where it's not necessarily identify, but still it's like this is bad. We don't want to fuck with this thing,
Yeah, you can feel the hum coming off
right?
an area or a thing or a
Yeah, and
person,
and
and then if you pay closer attention, you can kind of get the flavors of that to some
yeah,
extent.
it didn't come with point towards enemy on it. It
Right.
But and likewise, spell casting is a big part of the non-player characters and the enemies within the game. I mean, the Taken, you do not want your players to encounter them if possible, but if they do, there's the now again interpreting the rules for that. As far as the NPC side, the spell casting by the NPC seems a bit more open. They're not necessarily, they don't follow the exact same rules as you would um, for the player characters. It's essentially the GM has an idea of what he wants to do, and again, the players make a particular roll against the outcome. So, am I wrong in how that's interpreted on from the NPC side and the GM?
Yeah, I mean, you build as the GM, you build an NPC's spells
Hmm.
using the same
Right.
mechanisms that the players use, right? When we describe it, when we give an NPC stat
Hmm.
block, we'll give three or four different spells that are ready to go,
Right.
But essentially, all that is pre-packaging what version of the spell they cast, how many augmentations they've added to it, and then um, and whether those augmentations, and if they're a really power, the difference between a normal wizard and a really powerful wizard is the really powerful wizard gets lots of bonus augmentations they could put on their spells, right? They're just they get way more mileage out of the same amount of work. Um, but you're essentially building it up with the same ingredients, right? The only difference is yeah, if it's a wizard casting a spell, then the players, you as the GM, as before, you're not rolling to see how well the wizard did. The players rolling to see how good they are at getting out of the way,
Right.
right? So, and if it's a really dangerous wizard, then their roll's gonna suck. Their chances are gonna go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Gonna be unhappy for them, most likely.
And also coming with that, I mean, it doesn't. there's no alignment system in the game, but morality is also a big part of Glen Cook's world, and it's also reflective here within the game. On the soldier side, but also within spellcasting, it seems that there's intent has meaning, and if you are skirting the darkness, there's a chance that you can become tainted. And
Mm-hmm.
with the taint, okay, kids laugh. I said taint.
Mm-hmm.
Comes flaws of its own to reflect that. And so
Sure.
um, I'm going to you know blow up this entire village that has one enemy in there. Is going to have consequences to your character. Now, unlike in D&D where you leave every village in flames, it's fine. So, but again, this is more just me wanting to point out that this is another thing that reading through this, that it's definitely the focus, the attention to detail, the care provided, and this is we are just messengers of Glen Cook's world, and we were presenting it the best we can. Just
Mm-hmm.
want to kind of like give you some accolades regarding this. It's turning into something extremely um, wonderful, and I want and unexpected is not the right word, because you guys are all great, but this isn't what this is above and beyond what it's like. Oh wow, this is actually its own self-contained thing. This is not just Delta Green Light, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. Whereas another company may have done something like that. They may have just put a 2d20 on the label and turned it in to be graded. So
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, that's great to
yeah,
hear. I'm looking forward to putting the playtest out there
yeah,
and getting feedback, and
yeah. Well, be, be,
hopefully
uh,
it'll be everybody else also saying you guys are amazing. There's no
well, if they don't
you,
lose my
no
my phone
mistake.
number and my email, and I don't have to worry about getting an email from Dennis, because we all know that's not going to happen. But before we end, yes, excitement's a big part of it. There is,
Mhm.
it's not world spanning, but there is a large and well devoted fan base to the Black Company who is extremely excited. I just know this speaking to people, and the one thing that I, when I'm describing them, like, are you interested in the playtest? Yes, Black Company, I love it. I said, okay, well, we've got a little scenario, that we're going to go through to kind of test it. And they're like, oh, okay, what is it? And then I tell them about the Summer of Riots
Mhm.
and give a brief description of it. They're like, hold up, wait, where in Barrel, with the tension that's going on in the Fort Valaka, and just going. So are you telling me that we're there and we're piggybacking into the introduction to the first novel? I'm like, yes. And they're like, if you don't call me, if you don't pick me for this team, Scott, I'm going to find you and I'm going to stab you in the neck. Um, so, which kind of brings the question of, you know, with IPs comes the aspect of canon. And as much as
Mhm.
we people just love the idea of, I'm going to be a part of this world, not only that, but I'm a part of a key aspect. Is there a concern with that, on how, even with this introductory adventure that you're providing, uh, that the the canon aspect versus player freedom? I know we touched on it briefly in regards to the annals and whatnot, but this right here is just like, hey, you're at the Battle of Endor. You're in the trench run at the Death Star. You are a part of this. You can technically might affect the outcome. Is that a concern in regards in the presentation of this, and how it
No,
was? Okay,
no, not really at
yeah,
all.
okay,
Because the whole point of a role playing game is to play a role in the world
good.
and see the world affected by your choices as players, right? Um, yeah, no, and Cook did us a great
Hmm.
favor in in writing the books when he came back to writing new stories 10 years after the fact. Um, part of it, one of the things he did was he wrote this entire novel with a forward and afterward saying, yeah, we just found these documents and they weren't, this is an imperial archivist and we found these documents
Yeah.
stashed away somewhere and they weren't in the other copies of the Annals of the Black Company. And as near as we can tell, nobody remembers any of this happening, but it's apparently Croker wrote it, but he doesn't remember writing it. And is this a real thing? Mild spoilers for that,
Yeah.
by the way. But, which, that's great. I mean, when Cook did that, I have a feeling that was mostly just to save his ass because he didn't want to be bothered to go back and study his past material all that deeply. But for us, it's a great gift.
Yeah.
It gives us the opportunity to tell every GM, you know, if you want, please give your players permission to fuck up the story and take it in interesting, weird new directions. If you so yeah, I mean, if you want your, if the players want to play Croker and Elmo, and Otto and the lieutenant and
Yeah.
whatever, and then they go out and get a total party kill in the first
Mm-hmm.
adventure. um, well, you're still going to be playing the Black
Yeah.
Company because the company's not Croker. It's not. It's not any of those guys. It's the company. So you're going to have to play the people who pick up the pieces and see where that story goes.
Excellent. Excellent. Now and that's good to hear, and that's also going to make the people who are definitely just like focus on this
Mm-hmm.
uh, very happy because I feel of a certain fandom, those who are who know. I mean, it's clear that we're dealing with the quote unquote unreliable narrator with Croker in this story, and so those are the type of fandoms who, if something changes, they're okay with it because, well, it's just the version that we have. This one we weren't sure
Right.
this happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still exciting. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for the coming play testing. I'm excited for the players that I'm going to be playing with, and very much looking forward to the evolution of this game. And for those who aren't aware, this stuff happens at the game in Canada. The gentleman who had taken the sorcerer, there was a moment in the game where you said, hold on a minute. You grabbed his sheet, you wrote something down and said, yeah, you did something that's interesting. This may play into how we're working on. So it is a living,
Mm-hmm.
breathing, evolving thing. And as we all know, when it comes to Arc Dream, it will be out shortly. So but in the meantime, we there the player tests. The player testing is the play test available now, or are we still looking at a date coming forward soon for those who have signed up for
So
it?
yeah, we had our sights set on November 2025.
Sure.
I have a feeling it is going to actually happen in
Okay.
December, uh, but it feels like the playtest material itself. Um, I'm kind of running out of things to tinker
Okay.
with, which means we need to put it in front of other
Mm-hmm.
people. So, and then we're working on a new redoing the website for the Black Company
Mm-hmm.
RPG.com um, to show off some of the art that we've gotten done and to make it about the game itself rather than just a press release for the
Right.
project. Um, but we want all of that to happen kind of in tandem. So I'm hoping that 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll have it out there. And we've been collecting emails from the sign up
Yeah.
form on the website for 2 years now or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we'll reach out to everybody and say, here's how we're going to do this. So if you're still interested, then now's your shot.
Don't concern yourself about it because when 2 to 3 weeks come by and it doesn't happen, I will come back and edit it, and it'll be the
Yeah, yeah,
playtest will be
exactly.
out January
To
2022.
record a few things saying we are dead certain on January,
And
February,
I'll keep updating it.
March.
And
Yeah.
it'll be in the description, but where can people go to sign up if they haven't already?
Yeah, it's the blackcompany RPG.com.
Perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to put you in a corner, which I hate when people do to me, but I'm going to do the whole thing before we conclude here. If you can describe what you might consider to be the ideal experience for a group playing the Black Company RPG, what do you think that would be?
Oh yeah, I mean, I I think they ought to have plenty of opportunities to get in fights and have combat and attacks and ambushes, and also had the experience of wishing that they had been more careful before they got in a fight, um, and learning the hard way that if you go to the trouble of preparing ahead of times, then you're way more likely to survive intact. Um, and yeah, and then come out of it feeling, feeling like you've either accomplished something useful and or you totally blew it and didn't accomplish a damn thing. But either way, it was exciting and suspenseful and fun. And if everybody survived intact, then good job. Either you made a lot of wise choices, or you got super lucky. And either way, that's fun.
And no matter what, it's going to look good because it'll be in the annals, and it will not be the way that it actually happened. But well, Shane, I really appreciate your time here. We it's been over 2 hours. Time has flown by for me. I hope it's flown by for you. Anything else about the Black Company that we didn't touch upon you would like to just reference briefly?
Oh, I don't know. Nothing
Okay.
really comes to mind. It's for us. It's a tremendously fun um, thing to work on. Because I started reading the novels in 1985, I think, and just I've been a just diehard fan ever since. So it's a blast and the his style of writing, with the Black Company in particular, that was so long ago that there's been a whole generation of sort of grim, dark swords and
Yeah.
sorcery authors that readily credit the Black Company as being one of their first
Oh,
inspirations for the way that they decided to write. Um, and so yeah, it's sort of it's been great fun, and it and uh, it's kind of a homecoming. I mean, the Black Company shaped the way that I um, thought about uh, thought about fantasy stories and the way that I responded to games.
hmm.
I was running sort of Black Company inspired RuneQuest games when I was in high school and college. Um, and they never felt quite right because RuneQuest it was RuneQuest. It's not the Black Company,
No.
but our chance to make good on that.
Well, your dark glorantha may vary, as they say. So it's well, again, it's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much for taking the time. I hope at least from your perspective, that I've given at least a decent foundation of the game and what to expect. For those of you who haven't signed up and you're watching this, go sign up for the game. And in the meantime, if you're an Arc Dream fan, and the Black Company, this is something new that's kind of been falling in your lap, do yourself a favor, go pick up the first book. In fact, go buy them all, and read them. It's one of those things where I have no problem saying, recommending these games. Even if you don't have any intention of playing this, if dark fantasy is not your jam, you're going to get something out of this one way or another. It's when people say grim dark or dark fantasy, Warhammer pops into their heads, so to speak. And nothing against Warhammer, I love it, but this is not Warhammer. It is different. It is its own thing. So
A lot more. It's not quite as over the
No,
top and
no,
super color as all
no.
that. Yeah, I mean, the Black Company was the first novel.
Mhm.
Find that
Yeah,
find that somewhere on your, even as an ebook or
yeah.
whatever, and give it a shot. If you read the first chapter, you'll you'll know whether it's for you or not, right?
100% agree. Yeah, and there was
Yeah,
there was just a humble bundle on it. Hopefully, it's still up. You can get it. If it's too late, do not contact me, and I definitely will not share maybe a copy of the first chapter. Who knows? But that's bad. Don't do that. But that that aside, go pick it up. You can. It's in bookstores. It's you can order it online, get it from Amazon or whatever the case may be. But pick up the book. Sign up for the game. Support Arc Dream in its endeavors here. It is something that I personally feel will not disappoint not just the Black Company fans, but people who are fans of fantasy role playing games. And it is definitely something to look forward to. So, Shane, once more, thank you. I do appreciate your time here, and this has been yet another completely unprofessional interview. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day. Take care.